Hatchet and Hatchet 2 director Adam Green originally stated that he would love to make more sequels to his films. In 2011, Dark Sky gave the green light for another Hatchet film. Green declined to helm the sequel himself, but still wrote, produced, presented, and retained creative control, having final cut over the film while handpicking the director. Hatchet and Hatchet 2 cameraman B.J. McDonald would take over directing duty for Adam Green on this 2013 film, Hatchet 3.
Let's do this, you little bitch.
Let them fight.
You're a wizard, Harry.
You're gonna need a bigger boat. I'll be back.
Death has come to your little town, Jim.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Chills and Thrills. Connor here with you along with Chris, and today we are diving into Hatchet 3. So Chris, I know this was you said you got to watch it twice, so this was your first and second viewing of this. So what were your thoughts on Hatchet 3?
Yeah, Hatchet the Third. I will say, for me personally, this is my favorite of the three. That might be slightly controversial, and I know this one wasn't directed by Adam Green, and I know that from the last episode, apparently Adam Green's opinion is that the second is the strongest. I'm going to have to disagree with him here because I think this was the best of the three. So, in a nutshell.
That's not what I was expecting from you. So that is a surprise
really?
to me.
Did you think I was going to have a lower opinion of it, that I wasn't going to like it?
I did. I honestly thought you were going to come into this one like, that wasn't too great. So I was honestly thinking that you weren't going to be excited for the next one after this.
No, and I don't know what the general opinion of the fandom is. I don't know, like, if there's, like, how everyone hates, like, Friday the 13th Part 5. I don't know those divisions with the Hatchet movies, but for me, like, I definitely liked this one. I think I liked it the most. You got Sid Haig in there, got Derek Mears in there, you got plenty of great kills. I don't know. This one just felt kind of well balanced in a good way. I liked it.
Okay, I was just going to ask you without going into too much. I was going to say what made it kind of your favorite of the three so far, but definitely horror icons are a big part of this one.
Yeah, well, and it also seemed like it was filmed with better cameras than the first two. Like, the visual look of the movie just seemed to be of a higher, like, literally a higher resolution quality than the first two. So, like, that's a big part of it too. When the movie kind of, we know these are low budget movies, but when they don't look quite so low budget and have that kind of low digital video look to them, like, that's kind of nice too. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed is there's a couple like sweeping camera angles like above the swamp above the tree line and stuff. Some of the scenes that it make it look like a bigger production or like it had more money than the previous two. So I see where you're going there, and I do like what they did with that.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot, like you said, there's a lot of horror icons in this one. When I watched this, clearly, I had seen the first two. Before recording these, I'd seen all four of these. So, but coming into this one off of the second one was my favorite. So I went into this one not knowing if they were gonna kind of end it with a bang, like this was gonna be, it was just gonna be a trilogy, or if this was gonna be a continuation and Victor Crowley was gonna continue on and on, like the Halloween franchise and Friday the 13th. And, clearly these films aren't as big as those because those are phenomenal franchises. And this is just like, cheap B, these are small movie budgets, but they're fun films. So I like this one. I definitely like Danielle Harris coming back. I like how in all three of these, Adam Green has his own little cameo, and he's wearing the same shirt with the same little Mardi Gras necklaces and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. This is another fun one to go on, and it should be a fun conversation. But I did not think it was going to be your favorite. That's still surprising.
Yeah, and if like, this is the kind of thing where if this were only 3, I think this would be a really kind of strong little horror movie trilogy. Like, I'm pretty satisfied kind of with where everything landed at the end of this one. So, I mean, we'll see how the next one goes. I haven't seen it, but, we'll see.
So you didn't watch the Victor
No, I
Crowley
no,
film
I have
yet.
not. No, I have not watched. No, I'm kind of watching them as I go. I've not watched Victor Crowley.
Okay, no cheating from Chris over here. He's not jumping ahead any. I like it.
No, nope, not at all.
Well, here, I'll go ahead and get into some quick background on this film for you. Now, Hatchet 3 is a 2013 American slasher film directed by B.J. McDonnell and written once again by Adam Green. It is the sequel to the Hatchet 2 and third overall installment in the film series. Hatchet 2 director Adam Green originally stated that 2 more sequels would follow his second film, and in 2011, Dark Sky gave the green light for Hatchet 3. Adam Green declined to helm the sequel himself, but still wrote and produced, presented, and retained creative control, with having final cut over the film while hand-picking the director. And then Hatchet 1 and 2 cameraman BJ McDonald took over the directing on this film. Hatchet 3 was first shown at Adam Green's fundraiser dedicated to the victims of the 2013 Boston bombings, and the film was released in theaters and video on demand on June 14th, 2013, with Kane Hodder portraying the main antagonist, Victor Crowley, once again for the third time, while Danielle Harris returned to play protagonist Mary Beth Dunstan. So there's a little background on the film.
Okay, so hearing some of that, because I was wondering, I'm like, it's got clearly a different director, and I was curious of the narrative behind that, but it sounds like it's very much still Adam Green steering the ship, calling all the shots, and even someone who worked on the first 2 being sort of elevated to the director of this one. But I mean, like I said, nothing against Green, but I liked the direction in this one a little bit better than the first 2.
Yeah, there's parts to this one that you cannot go wrong with that I do like more than the second one. I think that we get a little bit stronger portrayal of some of our characters and things like that. There's parts of it I don't like. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about Victor Crowley, but one of the things that drives me absolutely bonkers in this film is him kind of like growling and roaring like a bear. That's about my only
Okay.
negative I can say.
That's fair. That's a little bit of a different characterization, I can understand that. And he's kind of, like the whole like regeneration thing. It's a little bit of a weird spot in the lore, and that's what I kind of attributed to it. Like he's like kind of like regrowing, so he's kind of in this like more like feral state, I guess. I don't know. Like that's maybe a bad justification, but I do get what you're talking about there.
Yeah, I like how in this third, with each film we've got in this series, they've went a little deeper into like Victor Crowley's curse and the lore of Victor Crowley and people who have come in contact or seen him supposedly, and like I like how in each film we get a little bit more of a connection to this or that, and that's one thing I like. If they, like you said, if they would have finished this off with this film, I think this, for a cheap, 3 cheap films, these 3 films combined aren't what half of a horror movie budget would be today for the most part. And I think as a trilogy, these 3 wrap up well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And it's one of those things where I kind of, I you know I hope that it'll be interesting to see what the Victor Crowley movie is all about, because I did kind of like where this landed at the end. So we'll see. It's kind of like one of those things where you get a movie franchise and you feel like you hit that like good conclusion, and then they do another one. It's like they should have just stopped earlier. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm definitely curious about your position for the next one once you watch it, because I usually can get a feel of how you're gonna feel about the next film or whatnot, and I honestly have no idea how you're gonna feel about this next film.
Yeah, I suppose we'll see. All
All right, why don't I get into a trailer for Hatchet 3, we'll get a plot synopsis going, and then we'll come back with some fun facts, some numbers, and then we'll get our favorite categories out of the way before we run into and get talking about Victor Crowley a little bit and end with some final thoughts on the film.
Yeah.
He's got a gun! Get on the floor! Drop the gun! Now!
I killed him.
I killed him. I killed him.
You guys think a girl did this?
Let me see if I got this straight. A ghost wiped out everyone in front of you. How many bodies you say there were?
20, 30. Crowley killed them all.
Best you got for me? Some kind of urban legend?
I'm telling you the truth.
Whether you want to believe it or not, this has Victor Crowley written all over it.
What the hell did this?
You still think he's dead?
Killed him.
Oh, shit! Help! 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 These are somebody's balls. Balls are not supposed to be hanging from trees. That guy knows what's up. If we don't leave right this second, nobody's gonna be alive tomorrow. It's Christmas!
After apparently managing to kill Victor Crowley, Mary Beth Dunstan makes her way back into the city, bloody and disorientated. She walks into the Jefferson Parish Police Department, where she is quickly put into custody due to her carrying of Victor's scalp. Upon the discovery of the carnage at Honey Island Swamp, Mary Beth is placed as the prime suspect for the murders by Sheriff Fowler, despite her swearing her innocence. Fowler heads out to the swamp with the paramedics and fire department, leaving Deputy Winslow in charge of the station until he gets back. Amanda, Sheriff Fowler's ex-wife, journalist, and an expert about the legend of Victor Crowley, comes into the station to interview Mary Beth. During the interview, Amanda tells Mary Beth that Victor has been cursed to relive the same night over and over again, and that he will keep coming back unless he gets what he wants: his father, Thomas Crowley. She then tells Mary Beth that she is the only one that can put an end to Victor, since her bloodline connects her to her father Samson, who was involved in starting the house fire that killed Victor as a child. At Honey Island Swamp, the body of Victor is bagged and put into a water ambulance. Suddenly, Victor reanimates and massacres most of the first response team, save for Fowler and a pair of paramedics, which includes Andrew. Back at the station, upon hearing the carnage over the radio, Amanda convinces Deputy Winslow to let Mary Beth out of the jail and help her save those at the swamp. Meanwhile, back at the swamp, a SWAT team led by Tyler Hawes takes over the operation from Fowler and is led to the Crowley house alongside a handful of deputies. Victor, however, is quickly able to kill nearly the entire squad, save for SWAT officer Doherty, Andrew, and Fowler, who manage to escape amidst the chaos. Meanwhile, Amanda, Winslow, and Mary Beth manage to obtain Thomas Crowley's ashes from Abbott McMullen, Victor Crowley's racist long-distant cousin. Andrew, Fowler, and Doherty manage to outrun Victor and barricade themselves inside the water ambulance. Shortly after, however, Victor begins to saw his way through the boat wall with a belt sander. Meanwhile, Amanda, Winslow, and Mary Beth arrive at the swamp outside the burned-down Crowley house. Amanda calls out for Victor, telling him they have his father. Upon hearing Amanda's voice, Fowler expresses relief, only to be grabbed by Victor and killed with the belt sander. Victor also grabs Doherty and pulls her through a sharp hole on the metallic door, which disembowels her, but Andrew manages to stay hidden and survive. Victor goes back to his destroyed home and finds Amanda and Deputy Winslow there, but refrains from attacking when he sees the ashes. Mary Beth offers Victor his father's ashes and apologizes for what her father did to him. When Victor approaches to take the ashes, however, Deputy Winslow mistakes it for an attack and shoots him down. Victor rises back up and kills Winslow and Amanda out of rage, before grabbing Mary Beth and impaling her on a tree branch, severely wounding her. Before he can finish her off, however, Mary Beth smashes the urn over Victor's head, covering him with his father's ashes and causing his body to melt down. With her last bit of strength, Mary Beth grabs one of the SWAT team's guns and blows his remains away before collapsing. The National Guard then arrives, and Andrew, now free of danger, emerges from the boat and signals the helicopters. Just as the screen cuts to black, Mary Beth gasps for air, leaving her fate unknown. Alright, I'll go ahead and I'll hit you with some numbers. This first one is kind of interesting because you said this film kind of seems like, like they have better cameras and like it's a better looking film, and this is the lowest budget we have of the series so far, with a budget of $1.2 million, with the next being the original film only being $1.5 million.
Wow, that's interesting. And maybe over the course of the years, because digital cameras, they kind of only came into light, for film production, like in the new millennium, like Attack of the Clones was one of the early all digital shot movies in terms of like a big blockbuster type of film. So digital cameras over time, they get cheaper and their resolution improves, and you go from like HD to 2K to 4K, and now they have 8K cameras. So maybe it was just a function of better cameras being available at a more affordable price for this one. Hence, the raw resolution just looks better. Like 1 and 2 have that kind of video look to them, a little bit, and this one didn't have that as bad, in my opinion.
Yeah, this almost, like you said, the first two look kind of cheap, and this looks something like that could be more presentable to theaters to show, besides some of the uncut kills in the film.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have all the unrated versions of these on Blu-ray. The ones, I believe you said you're watching them on Tubi.
Yeah. So I have no idea if there's cut, uncut. I have no,
I believe those ones are not uncut. So the ones like I have on Blu-ray, like they're worse when it comes to like the gore and whatnot. So.
Yeah, because it certainly seems like they're not holding anything back, So I'm not sure. Like I can't imagine what's cut from these if this is the stuff they're showing,
Probably just a half a frame of blood squirting or something, just to get it on. It might be something with like Tubi regulations or something. You never know what streaming services or rules have.
Yeah, because sometimes they'll go, like, for example, for something like The Devil's Rejects, they have the unrated version of that on Tubi. That's not like they don't go for the theatrical cut at all. So it might depend. Maybe they do go with the unrated cuts of the films.
I guess that's only a question for them. I wasn't sure if you would be getting the full gore experience or not.
It certainly doesn't feel like I'm getting less of a gory experience.
Like you're getting cheated out of anything.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like they're doing like a quick cutaway or anything like that.
Well, I know this film ramps it up a little more, so I'll get to that here in a second. This film is rated a 5.6 out of 10 on IMDb. It has a 59% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Metacritic kind of bombed on this one with a 25% rating, and then 87% of Google users liked this film, which I believe it is the highest of the three so far.
I mean, I can agree with that.
Once again, Chris is on the winning side or the right side of the argument.
yeah, as usual.
Here's our good number, the one we come to horror movies for, and there are a total of 31 deaths in this film, including, if you count Victor Crowley's death at the end, which averages to one death just over every 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, they kill a small army of people in this movie, and that's kind of what you want to see in films like this. That's one thing you kind of always have to escalate in the slasher movies from film to film. You almost always, you kind of gotta the kills either must be much more inventive and gruesome, or you got to really punch up that kill count number.
Yeah, and it helps in this film. I know there's and for anyone who's seen it, and we clearly watched this a couple times, but there are a couple like lulled moments where they're driving in the police car and whatnot, but like the scenes where Victor kills like the SWAT team, he gets 8 of them in a 3-minute span or a 3-minute scene or something like that. Clearly scenes like that help to up the body count in a big hurry, to have those 20 minutes of like silence, where we're riding with Mary Beth in the cop car and they're coming up with a plan. So scenes like that definitely help.
Yeah, and the way that the second one kind of seemed to have this kind of lurch in the middle before a lot of stuff happened in the third act, this one did feel a bit more evenly kind of spread across the runtime of the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, I believe it's like 12 or so. Yeah, there's 19 deaths in the second film, so there are 12 more in this one, and I think this film is a couple minutes shorter than the second one. Not 100% on that.
Yeah. It felt pretty lean and mean.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely way more characters in this film to be killed than there are in the first or second film. So that
which is a good and bad thing in some ways,
Yeah, you got cops, you got paramedics, you got
you don't ever want to have you never want to have just a bunch of randos that are just there to get killed, but sometimes it's not so awful to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are all my numbers for you. I do have some fun facts as always.
Gotcha. So, checking Wikipedia here, this one is apparently 3 minutes, just 3 minutes shorter than the second one. So nothing dramatic there. And while you were discussing some of those other things, I did look. There are websites you can go to kind of check out with screen grabs differences between the rated and unrated versions. And I'm at least looking at the page for the third entry. And from what I can see, some of the things they're saying that are removed for the R-rated version. I definitely saw those things when I was watching on Tubi, so I think they definitely, at least for the third one, have the unrated cut.
Okay, well, good.
Yeah. Specifically one of my favorite kills. It seems to be clearly different in the R-rated version, and I got the unrated one for sure.
Well, good, because you never know, that might not have been one of your favorite kills if it was rated.
Yeah, that extra step is an important piece.
Absolutely. I'll go ahead and hit you with some fun facts quick. My first one here for you is, after just 1 week of shooting this film, Kane Hodder declared it the hardest project that he's ever been on, performing rigorous action and stunts in sweltering Louisiana summer heat and humidity while wearing 30 pounds of silicone and makeup on his body.
Yeah, and I mean, and this isn't an insult or anything, but none of us are getting any younger. Every 2, 3, 4 years that goes by, Kane Hodder is a fact of reality, an aging stuntman, and stuntmen put themselves through a lot of rigorous physical demanding roles and activities in general. So that's going to wear you down a little bit. And then, as you only get older and then you're doing a more physically demanding part, like eventually it can be just, I can see how it can be a bit much.
Yeah, we've seen what he put his body through and stuff for just the Friday the 13th films alone. And he's been a stuntman in, I believe when I watched the documentary, he said between 75 and 100 films, if not more. So I'm sure he's getting to the age where he's a little tired.
I can only imagine. I mean, the man's not, 25 anymore.
Hey, but he's probably, even at his age now, he's probably still one of the best that could come out and do it professionally.
He'd still run circles around me for sure. He'd take my lunch. He'd take my lunch money 2 times over.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be buying him lunch for a week.
Yeah, I'm scrawny. I ain't challenging him to an arm wrestling contest.
This is the first of the Hatchet films to be filmed almost entirely in New Orleans, Louisiana, with the first two Hatchet films being mostly shot in Los Angeles. So there's another. Louisiana, the summer, like Kane Hodder said. I mean, it had to be somewhat miserable for everyone with the heat.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I spent almost a year in Louisiana once, and yeah, it's yeah, the, that's just I can just agree with that statement completely. Um, while we're talking about the filming and the setting of the movie, it's funny that this is like in Jefferson Parish, Louisiana, and if anyone's sort of like very sort of media savvy or has watched a lot of different things, if anyone's ever been aware of the show Steven Seagal Lawman, apparently, well, this isn't apparently, the place where Steven Seagal is a lawman in real life, we don't know how legitimate that is Jefferson Parish, Louisiana. So if you've ever watched a couple funny episodes of Steven Seagal Lawman, you'll see him right there.
My grandma when I used to stay the night at her house when I was just a little guy,
Mhm.
she would make us watch that nonstop because I
That's
believe
great.
she had
Yeah,
one TV and it was in her living room, and we would
nice.
sleep on the couches out there, and that she'd be in her
Yeah.
rocking chair, and that would be on the TV at all times.
Yeah, and they sold it as like he's totally a cop, but like really when you look into it, it's like he was given some kind of ceremonial kind of the word fails me, but some kind of like a much more ceremonial thing. That's why he's never driving the cars. That's why he's never actually like making the arrests or doing any of that stuff, because he's just kind of like uh approved to kind of be there and be part of it and kind of gear up and everything, but he's not like performing any of the actual official duties. It's a very, even for the fake reality TV that they're doing, it's still kind of within these certain parameters.
Well, I did not know that. So once again on here, I am learning things.
Yeah, sorry. To quote the line from The Devil's Rejects, my knowledge of bullshit is limitless.
For some reason, I don't doubt that whatsoever.
I can't help it. I get this nonsense in my brain and I can't get it out.
Nope, it's stuck. That is okay, because then you can come on here with me and you can share it all to the world.
Exactly. Just info dump on the world.
Well, I'll continue here. According to the cast and crew's various tweets and social networking comments, the production for this film was a brutal one. Several crew members spent time in the emergency room suffering from poisonous bug bites or DEET poisoning. Severe thunderstorms, lightning, rain, heat, and humidity made the swamp location even tougher to shoot in, and production trucks and equipment were stuck under several feet of mud at times. And then at one point, Adam Green tweeted, "I have 48 chigger bites from my waist down."
Yeah, maybe there's a reason people don't film in Louisiana swamps.
Yeah, let's
Maybe
go
it's
back to
not just a matter.
California.
Maybe it's just not just a matter of inclement weather. Well, it's the same thing. Like how they always make jokes about like in Australia, like all of the wildlife wants to absolutely murder you and kill you because it's like giant spiders and all of these other things. So maybe we got to be careful about that.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, if you're filming around swamps with heat, humidity, you're going to get bugs and everything else. And I live in Wisconsin, so clearly during the summers we get the mosquitoes and the heat, the humidity, and it's brutal half the time up here. So no, thank you. I don't want to film a movie in that type of weather.
Yeah,
I'll pass.
yeah, mosquitoes are bad here in Florida too.
Yeah, no, thank you. We'll see if you caught this one. I mean, we had mentioned her or who we're about to speak about in the first two films. So, Rylea Vanderbilt, who played SWAT member Doherty in this film, appeared in the first two Hatchet films as young Victor Crowley and also served as the key makeup artist on the first two Hatchets. And then this movie marks her first time she has actually shown her real face in a Hatchet film.
Ah, that's really cool. I did not do the digging to make that connection. That's really awesome. That's cool. I like that.
Well, I had just listened to our first Hatchet that we had recorded, and we were talking about her, and then I was like, "Oh, we get to talk about her again here soon." So, and then I remember
Yeah.
we said that she was a very pretty lady, and I remember watching this, thinking like, "Dang, she's cute," and I was like, "Oh, she's young Victor Crowley."
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't make that connection like watching it in real time, but yeah, it tracks. It makes sense.
Yeah, that's another thing I like about Adam Green is a lot of people, if he needs a character in a film, he brings like kind of keeps it in the family per se, like a special effects person, he brings them on film for the first time, or a production lady or guy. Like he keeps it all in his tight little family and gives them like key little moments in the film, and I like that he does that.
Yeah, he goes back to the well and kind of gives just in the same way that he sort of will in the same way that he'll refer to like older vintage kind of horror icons, he'll also be kind of cultivating these new faces and new people to be like recurring cast members. I like it.
Absolutely, 100% agree.
Like Perry Shen back in a third role, you know,
I love it.
as
I think he is
as
a fun
Andrew.
character in all three.
Yeah, no, and I thought this was his best one because he's sort of a little like kind of a caricature in the first one, and the second one he's not, he's also kind of like not an amazing role. Like this one, I think it's kind of like his best kind of performance and role that he gets to play.
100%. This one I think you'll like. This goes back. This has a connection with our Godzilla franchise that we did earlier on here. So, many of the characters in this movie are named after crew members from the original 2006 Hatchet film, with SWAT member Michaela Dougherty is named after Adam Green's friend and Trick or Treat's 2007 director Michael Dougherty.
Oh, okay, so that's from there. Got you. That's a fun connection. Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. I was like, oh, a Godzilla connection. I'm like, okay, so it's a reference to the director. Yeah, yeah. Because Doherty's not like a terribly uncommon name, so it could be from anywhere. But it's fun that it's from that.
Absolutely, because we have done his Godzilla King of the Monsters film. We've done Trick or Treat that he directed, so
Yeah.
it's nice to have the connection to two of our films and two of his films.
Yep, yep. And of course, and everyone knows we have two Jasons in this. We have Kane Hodder and Derek Mears, playing the character of Haas. So that's another sort of like another Friday the 13th connection, which is fun.
Absolutely. Continuing the connections upon connections, and I try to find as many of them as I can. Here's a connection to the first two films. I'm sure Chris was probably waiting on this one. In each of the three Hatchet films, someone says the line, again, pardon my language, "You've got to be fucking kidding me." And in this film, it is again Ben's character from the first film.
Yeah, and we kind of find out because it's only been like a few days, kind of like this is all happening over like basically like three-ish days, something like that, a couple of days. And so we find out that Ben has kind of barely survived and is still bleeding out. I don't know how realistic that is. I didn't see a tourniquet on that stump or anything, but he's kind of it's horror movie logic. We'll go with that, and he's kind of barely alive, and Joel David Moore comes in for a cameo to reveal he's there just to kind of die immediately. And so, Joel David Moore is, I'm sure he's content being in the Avatar movies.
Yeah, no kidding. Making billions compared to
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, possibly the most seen movies on the planet versus some of the least seen movies on the planet.
I'm sure having a little cameo in this was fun, though. I mean,
I mean,
if I was
yeah,
somebody, I would
clearly,
come
yeah,
back and do it.
yeah, clearly, he's in good taste and good spirits about it. I mean, he was not any. I mean, he's not, and not to disrespect him, he's not a big name actor as is. He clearly probably wasn't when he was young and in the first Hatchet. So I mean, for the time, like, why wouldn't he like come back and do a little like cameo for one of the sequels? Like that. I think that's a cool thing. Clearly they all got along and everything like that. So that's pretty cool.
My last one for you here is you touched on it a little bit. And this film, again, continues to feature horror icons such as Kane Hodder, returning as Victor Crowley. Again, he's most known for playing Jason Voorhees in 4 feature films. And then Victor Crowley in these 3 films. And then returning alongside him is Danielle Harris as Mary Beth Dunstan. And then this film adds horror icons such as Derek Mears, who played Jason Voorhees in the 2009 Friday the 13th remake, Caroline Williams, who is most notable for playing Stretch in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Sid Haig, who has been in dozens of horror films, most notably House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects, and then Zach Galligan, who portrays the sheriff in this film and was the star of the 2 Gremlins films as Billy Peltzer.
Oh wow, how about that? So another kind of childhood star, kind of returning years later, or younger. Kind of like how Danielle Harris was in the Halloween movies, and then she gets to be in these. Which I thought, actually, while we're on it, I thought Danielle Harris was really good in this film.
Absolutely. I mean, I will actually, since that is all my fun facts, why don't we go ahead and go right over? And since we're talking about kind of how she portrayed in this film, who was your favorite character of the film?
Yeah, so I mean, perennial favorites being, Danielle Harris as Mary Beth and Kane Hodder as Victor. But I also really dug, I liked Perry Shen coming in as Andrew. Andrew was like a good kind of everyman character. He's not really terribly heroic or brave or anything like that. He's sort of a pragmatist. But also, like, you got to give a shout out to Derek Mears as Hawes. Just because it's like, it's not that it's like, oh, I like this guy, but it's like you like how much of an a-hole that guy is. So it's like he was my favorite new addition to the series. It's like, oh, this dude, it's like I can't wait to just see him continue to be like a dick to everybody and then get eviscerated, So I loved the Hawes character.
And you like how arrogant he is. He's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
so arrogant. I mean,
and Sid Haig as a racist is always a little fun to see. Racism is not good, but Sid Haig playing a racist in this movie in that scene was for good comedy.
100% agree with you there. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later.
Perfect.
But I chose. I mean, Hawes was great. Schneiderman as like a whiny little police officer. I thought he was fun, and with all his, you know where we are, right? Like, yes, I'm scared, and he was fun. I liked Caroline Williams' character in this. She, being like the annoying like ex-wife / reporter, like I thought she portrayed that well. And I haven't really seen her in a lot, so it was nice for her to pop up in this after not seeing her in a lot of films since the second Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mm-hmm.
But I went with Danielle Harris as Mary Beth. I like her arc in this, how she thinks she has blown Victor Crowley's head off, and at the beginning of the film cut him in half with his 10-foot chainsaw or whatever it is, and she takes his scalp to the police station, and she thinks she's killed him. She thinks it's over, and she comes to the realization that it's not. And so she's kind of dragged or drugged back to face Victor Crowley one more time, and she kind of like has that like one-on-one with him where if you don't know there's a 4th film, you think this is the ending arc for her and that Victor Crowley dies and she dies and that's the end of the story. But I like what they did with her character in this.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
For favorite score, I mean, I could you even find it? I dug deep and I found it on a website. So I don't know if
no, I couldn't really find the score. Like I tried searching like OST on YouTube, couldn't really find it, So you have the kind of opening credits music, which is just a song, Hail Genocide, which is a fun song, but the only track that I could find on YouTube was called Engage, where it's like the SWAT guys kind of like engaging with Victor Crowley. But yeah, I couldn't really find specific tracks outside of that. So it's like, I don't know if I can technically really give a favorite score piece here. There wasn't, again, nothing in particular kind of jumps out in a movie like this.
In this one, it's kind of a lot of background noise, a lot of like ominous tones, eerie, like spooky stuff, like when they're walking through the swamp.
Yeah, I'll forgive the Hatchet films for not having a score as iconic as Halloween or Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street or anything like that.
Well, with the 3 opening credits, like actual songs that we get,
those are all fun.
Yeah, we'll give them a little bit of forgiveness just for having some rock jams to listen to while the credits play.
Yeah, 100%.
Like I said, I dug deep and I found it on a website. It was Scott Glasgow Music, and it had 10 tracks from the actual soundtrack. And I went with Victor being summoned, and I believe that was when they were when Mary Beth and the officer and Caroline Williams' character were like saying like, Victor, come and get your daddy, and again that soundtrack was even just some like background music, like eerie spooky tones and stuff like that. So I mean, when I did listen to it, nothing jumped out at me. So I mean, if the engaged, when he is fighting like the SWAT officers, that probably is the most notable one of the film, even though that I got to listen to the whole soundtrack. That would probably be the one that I choose.
Gotcha.
And it's nice that you got to listen to it as well.
Yeah.
What was your favorite quote from the film? I mean, I'm sure with the Sid Haig's performance, there's plenty, and there's a couple more after that as well.
Yeah, I didn't go with a Sid Haig quote. I actually went with when, because from the way my mind works, if I see, Derek Mears, the newer Jason actor, in a movie with Kane Hodder playing the monster, I'm like, oh, well, they're gonna build up to these two facing off, and maybe Derek Mears will have like, a good tussle with him, and they'll do this kind of Jason versus Jason thing. So they finally get to the point where it's kind of mano-y-mano with Victor Crowley and Hawes. And he says, "Let's do this, you little bitch." And it's like, okay, like, is it gonna be like a fight? And then then Victor Crowley just destroys him. And it's like, that's kind of perfect, it's like that I love that. So him saying that to Victor Crowley's face right before he's like disemboweled is just, that was good for me.
It was, because I was honestly, as soon as I seen Derek Mears in this, I was like, all right, like we're gonna have a confrontation. Adam Green is, he does these things because he's for the fans, and if you're a fanboy, you know that Kane Hodder plays Victor Crowley, that's Derek Mears, and Derek Mears is a big guy. I mean, yeah, Kane Hodder's a big guy. You think they're gonna tussle and have somewhat of a fight, kind of like Trent and Victor Crowley did in the second film. And like you said, nope, it ends with a punch and he rips his spine out and his skull. And it's just like, well, all right then. It's almost a disappointing like end to that character, but it shows Victor Crowley's strength as well. So it's like a 50-50,
and it kind of subverts your expectations a little bit, where you think it might be this big fight, and then it's like, no, it's not. And it's like, I can see how it might be disappointing for some, but it's also kind of fun that it's a fun way of saying like, look, Derek Mears is a great Jason, but like Kane Hodder's kind of like the best,
Yeah, Kane Hodder's the man.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go with any Sid Haig ones either. I ended up going with a quote from Officer Schneiderman.
You don't want to repeat any of Sid Haig's lines. You don't want to say them for the world.
Oh, I will absolutely repeat them. He answers the door and he asks the police officer. He's like, "Who is the colored?" And the officer's like, "Deputy Winslow, you do know the Civil Rights Act, or like the Civil Rights Movement happened, right?" He's calling him.
Yeah,
he's calling him boy, and
yeah. You don't want to be on CNN tomorrow giving an interview.
Oh, I have no shame in. They're just movie quotes to me.
Yeah, of course. I'm just teasing. I mean, it is what it is.
They're just funny. He's like, "I can't even stand you. You mumble too much."
Yeah. It's like, oh man, they weren't holding back. It was really funny.
Not at all. And with this being like one of like the last like films we got to see him in, like clearly not the last, but one of the last. He had a great 5 to 10 minutes in this film.
Definitely.
The quote I ended up going with, though, again, was from Officer Schneiderman. It's when he's like freaking out and he's shaking in his boots and he's like, these are somebody's balls. Balls are not supposed to be hanging from trees, but yet I'm finding myself looking at balls. And a guy behind him throws up and he goes, that guy knows what's up. And that gives me a laugh every time. And
Yeah.
Derek Mears is Officer Hawes, like he walks over and he just like flicks the hanging balls and it's just like, oh man, come on.
Yeah. It's
That's my favorite quote from the film because he's like Officer Schneiderman plays it so well that he's this big like puss and he's scared of being in the swamp. So that hit me with a that was a gut buster for me right there.
Yeah, that was good for sure.
I'll give you my favorite scene because it was what we were just talking about, and it's when they all visit Abbott McMullen, which is he's played by Sid Haig, and that 10 minutes of the film where he's just like this racist old man where he's like, I went to Korea, and he's just hilarious. If you can watch this film and get to that point there, that's 10 minutes where you can have a good laugh. I don't care if you're who you are. I mean, you should be able to laugh at that scene and just know that the directors were having fun with it because that's comedy gold for 10 minutes when they visit Abbott McMullen and are in his house.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there because it's so out of left field, and the movie's just kind of carnage and mayhem and violence, and then you just get this kind of like that scene would be at home in like any comedy, and so it kind of when you're in a non-comedy movie is when the comedy can be more effective because you're not waiting for a joke all the time like in a comedy movie. So like it kind of works even better. It's like good lord, and like Sid Haig being the actor, and it was like even it's just like icing on top. So it's like it was just well done, a great like break of pace for the movie.
Yeah, I like when he opens it, he answers the door after they knock. And he's like, who are you? And he's like, you little harlot, like, like, what are you doing here and stuff? It's the middle of the night. And they're like, what do they say? It's like 8:45. And he's like, well, that's what I said.
Yeah, exactly.
To us, 8:45, that's damn near dinner time some nights. And
Yeah,
he's
no
like, yeah, it's the
kidding.
middle of the night.
Yep.
What was your favorite death scene or kill in the film?
So I mean, I'll cheat and I'll take two. Sure, why not? So the one that I'd say would be my tops would be the officer that's held on the ground and he sort of gets one arm ripped off and then he gets the other arm ripped off and he's sort of taken apart piece by piece. Which apparently in the R-rated cut of the movie, only one of the arms is shown being ripped off. So I did get the full Monty on that one, and then Amanda's death when she sort of gets her head yanked off of her body is that's just because again usually in horror movies oftentimes like elderly ladies, children are kind of like off limits and safe, so for an older lady to get such an absolutely brutal death is was it's kind of it's still a little shocking in some ways, so I also liked that death.
Yeah, and then it helps that as soon as he rips her head off, he something with Kane Hodder and throwing heads at people. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's just a great punctuation.
Absolutely. I don't know if this is cheating or not, but I chose Victor Crowley's death. How they kind of hit him with the ashes of his dad and like the slow meltdown of him, how the effect of his body just melting away. I thought that was really well done. And then how
Yeah, I
Mary
couldn't
Beth kind of
quite.
gets the final blow.
Yeah, and I couldn't quite tell. Like the way it's done, it looks a little bit like a digital effect, but it also wouldn't shock me if they had done something weird and different to achieve it, like some weird time. Like it looks digital, but it's a well executed effect.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I
Because the
think
only other thing would
for
be
the
like some kind of weird stop motion thing or some time lapse something or the other. But like it looks like it's got to be like kind of like a digital effect sort of a thing or something kind of wonky going on there. But either way, it looked really good.
Yeah, I thought so too. For the budget that this film has, there's some good gore on screen, and I can't remember. This might be clearly this Hatchet has the least amount of nudity, but I don't know if there's any in this one, surprisingly.
No, I don't think so. Danielle Harris is get the blood sprayed off her, and so she is unclothed, but not showing any nudity at that scene.
Yeah, I don't think there's any in this one, which is shocking for compared to what we get for the first two. But
Yeah,
there's definitely money on screen.
surprisingly wholesome. You know, get your act together, Adam Green. Take the smut out of your movie.
Yeah, I did not have a problem with there being no nudity in this at all. I thought it was a well directed film for sure. I liked the characters and stuff. So, and I mean, like back to the kills, like I thought the kills were good. There was a couple that we could mention, like you said a little bit earlier with Derek Mears' character.
Yeah, and someone got their head split in half vertically. Again, you see the brain fall out. It's a good moment, you know, like that's always a fun one because it feels like one's always just like, you know, the kind of ones that when you would watch all the old 80s horror movies, you would kind of try to like watch with your buddies and try and invent like wild deaths and things like that. And stuff like that, like a head being kind of split apart vertically and like seeing the inside of it. Like it's always one that felt too over the top or hard to do back then. And then so it's cool to see it, you know, in these modern horror movies.
That was the one. That was the only one that I was just like, that's kind of cheesy because the brain falls out and you just hear like a plop.
Yeah, I know. I dug it though.
I mean the was it the coroner? You know, getting the
the defibrillators.
Yes, the defibrillator to the head.
Yeah, that was a little wild. You know, that one that felt like it was maybe belonged in a different kind of movie, but it was still fun to see.
Yeah, the one you chose with his arms getting ripped off, that happened to be my favorite quote. That was Officer Schneiderman.
Yeah. Schneiderman got what he deserved.
As he was
which is what you don't deserve. That's the whole point of a horror movie, is that characters don't get what they deserve. You know, only the a-holes get what they deserve, but then everyone else is generally a pretty okay person who gets a brutal death.
Well, I mean, he was smack talking Victor Crowley the whole time he was loading up that rocket launcher, and then he thinks he thinks
and
he's
he
got
misses.
him.
How do you miss at that distance? Like, good Lord Almighty, how do you miss at that distance?
Victor Crowley throws the other paramedic guy right into the rocket and blows him in the house up. It's like, man,
talk about fumbling the ball. Point blank range, you can't blow him up.
Maybe he should have walked away when he had the chance.
Well, I love the part where he's the one that freaks out a little bit earlier, and then Hawes catches up to him and slams him against the tree and is like, "You need to calm down." It's like, dude, Hawes, you're not having a very calm reaction to any of that, you know? He's like, "Jeez," you know? It's like punching someone out and being like, "Stop hitting people," you know? Like, jeez. Like, good Lord. That's when I knew I like this Hawes guy, you know.
And Derek Mears plays it perfect because he's he's very aggressive in the film.
Yeah, just pissed at the world, you know. That's what you need.
He comes in from the very first moment and he's like, "All right, I'm taking over. I'm in charge. Where are your men? They're gonna listen to me."
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
What did you think of the Victor Crowley design in this film? It's not too much different. I know I mentioned that the bear roar kind of and the sound effects kind of.
Yeah, it's kind of it's nothing to write home about because it's kind of got this like I don't know. It's nothing special. It's not bad, but combined with like the roars and stuff, it starts to push him less into like this human type killer and more into like this kind of creature, and it's just a little bit of a different vibe.
And that's the only like bad thing I have to say about the Victor Crowley design is the bear roar. Other than that, it's pretty consistent. I mean, Kane Hodder portrays it well. I mean, we get the overalls, we get the hatchet slash in his face and everything like that. So I mean, other than the bear roar, it stays pretty consistent. If they would have had like the sound effects, like the human, like moans or like kind of roars, like in not really roars, but the human sounds, more human sounds, like in the first and second one. I think this might have been my favorite of the Hatchet films, but that bear roar really, when and he's on screen, it kills this film for me, and like and the portrayal of him is it's just that bear roar, it kills me.
Yeah, it's a little tough for me. Not enough to be like the deal breaker, but I get whatever. I can get that criticism.
And I can stomach it to watch the film, and I mean it's something different. But like I said, I when he comes on screen, I try to tune that out because
Yeah, I do. I
other
do
than that, I
generally.
enjoy it.
Yeah, because I generally prefer more of like the silent slasher thing as well. And once and
Absolutely.
with Victor Crowley being kind of like this deformed thing, it starts to turn this corner of like, is this a slasher movie or is this like a creature feature? And those are kind of different. You know, it's like Jason killing people in the woods is a slasher movie. The Predator killing people in the jungle is a creature feature. You know, it's like, so it's kind of gets to be a different kind of thing. Like the Descent movies are creature features, but you know, so it's kind of you know, and again, that's splitting hairs. You know, these are horror murder genres, but it is a distinction. You know, it is a different kind of movie once it feels like you're dealing with like a monster versus a killer. You know.
Yeah, it's as you said. I mean, there's all different types of genre of horror movies. There's slashers. There's the creature features. I mean, there's the vampire movies, werewolf movies. I mean, you could bunch them into creature features, but if you want to dive a little deeper and separate them, like there's all types of horror films. And I want this to be a slasher. I want Victor Crowley to be a slasher. So if he's getting shot, let me hear like some grown man sounds, or some grunts or something.
I don't know how eager I am to hear grown man sounds.
You know what I mean.
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
Let me get some grunts, not some animals, some bear noises or something like that.
I'll get a T-shirt made for you. I want to hear some grown man sounds.
Send you my address when we're done recording.
That'd be funny. That's good though. I know exactly what you're talking about though.
Good. That came out a little worse than I wanted it to.
It's all good.
That is all I have for our favorite categories. So and then our Victor Crowley conversation. So if we want to get into some final thoughts, unless you have anything else to add.
No. I mean, I think this is a solid entry. You know, I hope I'm not setting myself up with like the whole like these films are getting better and better thing, but you know, we'll see how the next one goes. Uh it always on a surface level it always makes me a little nervous when like you have like Hatchet 2, Hatchet 3, and then the next one's called Victor Crowley. I'm like, okay, I don't know what we're in store for here, but we'll see. But this one, for me personally, my favorite of the three. For me personally, like a satisfying kind of conclusion, like the idea of them like killing each other at the end. I kind of dig that as a story finale. I mean, we'll see how the next one goes, but you know, I'm happy with this one as far as slasher movies go.
100% agree with you. And I mean, it is hard for me after rewatching like this third one to be like, man, I really like the second one more. And then it's like, I like the characters and like where this film takes us with like the lore of Victor Crowley and having Sid Haig in there and just like some of the characters this one adds. So, I mean, like on our next episode, like we'll do a quick like 30-second ranking of the films, like where we rank them, like from
100%,
worst to best,
100%.
like 4, 3, 2, 1. But
Mhm.
like it is hard for me to go back and forth between this second and third one because they're both good films. And I mean, I like the first one a lot too, but it just shows how much of an improvement this second and third one have had. And I mean, Victor Crowley's great. The kills are great. A lot of the budget you can see goes towards the special effects again. Danielle Harris comes back and she's phenomenal. And then
Mhm.
all the other horror icons from the past that we get in little bit parts, they keep adding to the story. So I like this one a lot as well. And I mean, my opinion might change before the next one. I still, as of right now, I tilt towards the second one just a pinch, but I
Mhm.
do like this third one a lot for, I like these Victor Crowley films, and I hold them in probably a little bit higher regard than some people do, but I have fun and a good time with them.
I got you. I got you.
So, as we've said before, this film did have a sequel. In August 2017, it was announced that a fourth Hatchet film had been secretly filmed and completed, and that would be released in October, as Victor Crowley was released October 5th, 2017. So that was a completely secret film, which I'm sure I'll dig into a little bit more of this on our next episode as well. But Adam Green had they have a little festival for Hatchet fans. I'm not sure if they do it anymore, but they did it every year or every couple years. And then they were supposed to be watching the original Hatchet film with the audience, and Adam Green was supposed to answer some questions afterwards, and he ended up surprising the crowd with this fourth Hatchet film titled Victor Crowley. And I mean, it got good reception from from fans of the Hatchet franchise. So I'm excited to see what Chris thinks about that on our next episode.
Yeah, looking forward to checking it out.
So if that is all we have for Hatchet 3, as always, I will thank you for joining me, because digging into these Hatchet films is something I'm sure not too many people would like to do like we have. But if you're listening to us, clearly you're a fan of this. So everyone else, thank Chris as well, just as I do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's always fun. It's always a good time. Happy to do it. So we will we'll keep on trucking along here.
Absolutely. So thank you. And again, pleasantly surprised that this was your favorite of the 3 so far. So that makes me even more excited for the next one.
Yeah, and thank you for having me on. Like I said, it is always fun. You always have these good picks. It's fun to kind of discover movies that you hear about for years. You just never have the time to kind of hunker down and watch them. And then now I'm kind of moving through them all and getting to see what it's all about. That stuff is fun for me as well. The discovery part of it, so looking forward to that.
Absolutely. So thank you. Thank anyone who's out there listening. Check us out, on Spotify and our Facebook page. We have polls under all of our episodes. So give us a vote. Let us know whatever the question is, what your thoughts on the film are, your favorite kill or character of the film. So again, thanks everyone. Thanks, Chris. And until next time.
These are somebody's balls. Balls are not supposed to be hanging from trees, yet I'm finding myself looking at fucking balls, sir. That guy knows what's up.